Hello everyone. We are looking at coping with changes in young adulthood. How are you coping? Who is a young adult? Young adulthood is divided into two categories: early adulthood transition and entering the adult world. Early adulthood transition is between the ages of 17 and 22 years. This is where a person leaves adolescence and begins to make choices about adult life. Entering the adult world is between ages 22 and 28 years. This is a stage in which a person makes more concrete decisions regarding their life. What is different about you now? How old are you now? Are you the same person you were 2 years ago? What changes do you see in you? Are you different today than you were yesterday? Well, sometimes changes in itself are hard to see, but over time they become more pronounced. People changed in two broad areas: through biological natural growth and development, and as a result of experiences. Some experiences are positive, while some are negative. These experiences often determine the choices we make as we mature. Differences in natural development between males and females. So here we're about to see how males develop, whether or not it's differently from females' natural development. The main task is to establish intimate relationships so as not to feel isolated from others. Intimacy does not necessarily involve romance, but it does involve caring for another and sharing oneself without losing oneself. The kinds of friendships shared by women tend to differ from those shared by men. Friendships shared by men involve sharing information, providing solutions, or focusing on activities rather than discussing problems or emotions, which that's quite different from females. Men tend to discuss opinions or factual information and spend time together in an activity of mutual interest. Women share weaknesses, emotions, and problems. They talk about difficulties they are having in other relationships, expressing sadness, frustrations, and joys. Does these differences pose problems? The developmental crisis at this stage in life is the establishment of intimacy versus isolation. Many young adults postpone making long-term commitments to partner, either in marriage or cohabitation, which means living home. Early traumatic experiences can negatively affect the natural order of development. During this period, because men and women view friendships differently, some amount of trauma and stress arise. For instance, the female may want to vent about a problem she is having to her male friend, but the man may just want to provide a solution and move on to another activity. This may lead to the woman feeling that the man does not care. Have you ever been in this situation? What are some things that bother you as it relates to being respected? During this stage, the young adult strives to become part of the adult world and gaining independence. The focus is on the future. Many of the decisions and choices made during this period are made before a person has had enough experience to really understand the consequences of such decisions. Many young adults are still unsure of their career paths and may not show the kind of commitment to the tasks they are given to do and may become negligent or hostile. Young adults may be engaged in risky behaviors and be particularly vulnerable to injuries, accidents, alcohol, and drug use or abuse, sexually transmitted diseases, rape, and suicide. Changes that are natural, even when situations are not. Change can be difficult because it can challenge how we think, how we work, the quality of our relationships, and even our physical security or sense of identity. We usually react to change in four stages. Shock or disorientation. Stage 1. Experiencing a sudden big change can feel like a physical blow. Some such change could be sudden death of a loved one or major health issues or loss of financial support. Stage 2. Anger and other emotional responses. Initial disorientation often gives way to waves of strong emotions. You might be angry at the loss of financial support or fearful about the impact of being without financial support. Changes that are natural even when situations are not continued. 3. Stage 3. Coming to terms with the new normal. During this stage, your focus will start to shift away from what you have lost and forward to what is new. You might be reluctant to acknowledge it and become more resentful and unwilling to cooperate. This may cause harm to yourself and others, especially when you lash out. Stage 4. Acceptance and moving forward may be the difficult of the other stages, the most difficult that is. At this stage, you come to fully accept the changes in your circumstances. At this point, you are ready to move on. Change comes in many forms, but leaving behind what you know are used to is almost always stressful, even if it is a change you yourself made. But how do you cope? People tend to cope with change in one of two ways. Escape coping, which is based on avoidance. You take deliberate actions to avoid the difficulties of this change. For instance, you might deliberately disobey a rule or miss curfew during this time. Maybe you'll refuse to do given chores or ignore calls from a friend who just got the reward that you wanted. Some people even take refuge in alcohol or drugs. Then we have control coping. On the other hand, it's positive and proactive. You may refuse or you refuse to behave like a victim. You refuse to behave like a victim of change. Instead, you manage your feelings, get support, and do whatever you can to be a part of the change. In reality, most of us respond to major change with a mixture of escape and control coping. But control coping is generally the better option. as it is impossible to avoid the reality of change for long without becoming exhausted or damaging your reputation. To be sure that you are adjusting to changes in your life, you must look at yourself in all these areas. How are you doing in each area? Physically, socially, mentally, spiritually, and emotionally. Answer these questions to check yourself. Physically, are you in control of your emotions, or do you become angry easily and become aggressive? Mentally, what are you thinking? Are your thoughts positive? Are you motivated to move forward? Socially, are you easily influenced by negative peer pressure? Are you more sensitive to the potential costs associated with behaviors and have better control over impulsiveness? Have you formed bonds that are healthy and supportive? Spiritually, how is your spiritual being? Do you listen to soothing music, pray, or fellowship with a congregation of choice? Emotionally, do you focus on your strengths instead of weaknesses? Do you think positive thoughts? Take a longer time to consider difficult problems before deciding on a course of action? If you are having problems adjusting to changes, you can try to make the best of a stressful situation. Change is inevitable and can be positive. The hardest thing is to understand and adjust to the changes that are out of your control. So do not stress out about being stressed out. Focus on your values instead of your fears. Remind yourself of what is important to you: family, friends, religious convictions, great music, creative expression, skills, and talents. Accept the past, but fight for the future. Even though we are never free from change, we are always free to decide how to respond to it. Be encouraged to develop coping skills. There are two main types of coping skills: problem based and emotion based coping. Sorry. Problem based coping, helpful in changing situations. If you are in an unhealthy relationship or have been making unhealthy choices, your negative feelings may best be resolved by ending the relationship. So make decisions that are well thought through and act on them. Emotion based coping, helpful when you need to take care of your feelings, when you do not want to change your situation, or when circumstances are out of your control. Tell yourself you can do whatever it is you need to do, and even if you are nervous, tell yourself no one else will notice. Building resilience at this stage is essential, so you must have the courage to be imperfect. Being perfect leads to stress, so strive to be really quiet good. Take time for yourself. Do something that you enjoy. Sign up for that course, join a club, get involved in community activities, create skills, boost physical and mental well-being. Spend time with people who make you feel good. This helps to build confidence and belief in self. Laugh out loud each day. Look at the lighter side of life and frustrating events. Do one thing that you have been putting off. Be motivated and stimulated. Focus more on things you can control. Adapt to change. See change as an opportunity, to learn and grow. Remember, this too shall pass. Keep things in perspective. Avoid being overly negative. Keep your eyes on the future and know that your circumstance can change because you are in control of your life. How do you feel now? Did this information help? If yes, how did it help? What would you do first to help you cope with change? If no, what would be helpful? Thank you very much for your participation. The slide was created by Miss Beverly Shewram. Have a nice day.